Okay, so you want to own a crypto exchange. You picture servers, a trading screen, maybe a logo on a Formula One car, and underneath all of it, you assume the obvious risk. This is crypto prices crashing, and if Bitcoin drops 80%, you go down with it. That's the first thing you have wrong. The exchange does not own the coins. When a customer buys Bitcoin on your platform, they're buying it from another customer. You're just standing in the doorway, taking a slice as they pass. Bitcoin can double or go to zero, and your business model does not flinch, because you're not betting on the price. You are charging a toll on the fear and greed of everyone who is. You're not the gambler, you're the house. And this is the most profitable version of the house ever built. Here's why. Every time someone trades on your exchange, you take a fee. On most platforms, it lives somewhere between 0.1% and 0.5% per trade. That number is designed to look like nothing. 0.1% on a $100 trade is 10 cents. Who cares? Now stack it, because when the former head of Binance described where his company's money came from, he said roughly 90% of it was just his trading fees. That tiny slice collected again and again. In 2022, that tiny slice added up to around $12 billion in revenue for a single exchange. And this huge profit was built from charging people to touch crypto. Insane, right? And the beauty of the model is that you get paid on the way in and on the way out. When the market goes up, people trade. When the market crashes, people panic sell, and they trade even harder. A casino needs you to lose. An exchange doesn't care if you win or lose, it only needs you to move. Volume is the whole religion. The more your customers churn, the more you clip. That's why every exchange on earth is engineered to keep you trading. The flashing tickers, the leverage buttons, the little green and red candles that feel like a slot machine because they basically are one. You must pause here and look around your screen for the subscribe button because we bring the insane, stupid rich math on those things you want to own. Actually, you can comment below also what you want to own. We'll make a detailed video on that because you have billions to spend and we have time to make you aware of the rich maths. Move forward. So if the machine prints money this cleanly, where's the catch? The catch is getting the machine switched on legally. And this is where most people trying to move into this business quietly disappear. To let Americans trade on your exchange, you need permission, and not from one office, actually from dozens. You register federally as a money services business, and then you go state by state collecting money transmitter licenses because the United States decided crypto should be regulated 40-something different times by 40-something different regulators. And if you want the customers who actually have money, the institutions, the funds, the whales you need, New York issues something called a BIT license. The application fee is $5,000. That number is a trap. It's there to make you feel like the door is cheap. Because behind that $5,000 door, one exchange, Coinbase, reportedly spent around $2.1 million in 18 months just to get through the process. The fee was never the cost. The cost was proving in exhausting detail that you could be trusted to hold other people's money without losing it or laundering it. If America sounds like a wall, you can go where the door is lower. Under Europe's crypto framework, the minimum capital to run an exchange starts around 125,000 euros. Certain US states have turned themselves into fast lanes one founder described launching in about 6 months for under $200,000 by starting somewhere friendly and expanding outward. Japan, Singapore, Dubai, every serious jurisdiction has its own number and its own line to stand in. But notice what you're actually buying with all that money in all those months. You're not buying servers. You're buying the right to be trusted. And trust is the entire product here. Which brings us to the man in November 2022, who typed 4 sentences into a phone and hit send. 72 hours later, a company valued at $32 billion did not exist anymore. He didn't hack anything. He didn't break a single law with that message. He just told the truth about arrival at exactly the right moment, and the whole thing came down like a wet building. That man owned a crypto exchange. And the strange part is, the tweet is not even the interesting thing about him. Remember this tweet, because we'll catch it later. His name is Changpeng Zhao. Everyone calls him CZ. He was born in China, raised in Canada, later based in Dubai. He was a genuinely global operator with no fixed flag. In 2017, he launched an exchange called Binance. Within a few years, it wasn't a big exchange. It was the largest exchange in the world by trading volume, moving something like $15 billion in trades on an average day. CZ built the most profitable toll booth in the history of money. And then, in November 2023, he walked into a federal courthouse in Seattle and pleaded guilty. The charge was not that he stole, it was that his machine had gotten so big, so fast, and so global that he never bothered to build the boring part, which was the anti-money laundering controls that are supposed to stop the exchange from being a laundromat. Prosecutors said Binance had let money move for people it should have blocked, including users in sanctioned places like Iran, Cuba, and Syria. Binance agreed to pay $4.3 billion to make the case go away. one of the largest corporate penalties the United States has ever handed down. CZ personally paid a $50 million fine and agreed to stop running the company he built. Now here's the number that tells you everything about this business. Prosecutors wanted CZ in prison for 3 years. The judge gave him 4 months. He served it in a low-security facility and walked out that same year. And because he still owned roughly 90% of Binance, he walked out worth around $60 billion, which is insanely one of the richest people alive on the earth. Then, in October 2025, the story closed its loop. He was granted a full presidential pardon. Sit with that, because the man ran the biggest exchange on earth, admitted his company broke the law. He paid the largest kind of fine that exists and came out of it still a multi-billionaire with a clean record. In almost any other industry, that sequence is impossible. In this one, it's practically a business plan. The fine was just a line item. The machine kept printing the whole time he was inside, which is exactly why the tweet matters so much. Because CZ understood something about this business that his competitors didn't fully feel until it was too late. The exchange sells trust. And trust is a switch, not a dial. It's either on or it's off, and it can flip in an afternoon. His main rival was FTX, run by Sam Bankman-Fried, a man the press had decided was the responsible, respectable face of crypto. FTX was the number 2 exchange, valued at that $32 billion with a trading firm attached to it called Alameda. In early November 2022, a report revealed that a huge chunk of Alameda's supposed fortune was just FTX's own homemade token. Essentially, the company holding up its own balance sheet with paper it printed itself. CZ read that, and on November 6th, he posted that Binance would sell off its own pile of that token. 4 sentences, which he framed that as a simple risk management. But everyone in crypto understood the real message. The biggest player has stopped trusting FTX, and in a business where trust is the only asset, that's a fire alarm. The customers ran for the exits. Bankman-Fried tried to calm them by publicly insisting the exchange was fine and that customer money was safe, but it was not fine. There was a hole where the customer money should have been. Roughly $8 billion of it had been quietly funneled into Alameda and gambled away. In 72 hours, $6 billion in withdrawals hit an exchange that couldn't cover them. Within days, FTX froze withdrawals. Its token collapsed by 80%, and the company filed for bankruptcy. Bankman-Fried was later sentenced to 25 years in prison. Same industry, same year, same job title. One founder went to prison for 4 months and stayed a billionaire, and the other got 25 years. The difference between them was just one number: how much of the customer's money was actually still there. CZ's exchange had problems, but the deposits existed. FTX's didn't, and once the crowd suspected that, no fine, no apology, no tweet could save it. The bank run did the rest, which is the threat nobody moving into this business likes to say out loud. Your exchange is a bank that never earned the word bank. Customers hand you their money and assume it's sitting in a vault with their name on it. Often, it isn't sitting anywhere near where they think. And unlike a real bank, there's no line at a teller window that gives you a day to react. A crypto bank run happens on a phone screen at 3 a.m. at the speed of a group chat. FTX proved you can go from $32 billion to zero before the weekend is over. The exact same weapon that made CZ powerful, which was the ability to move trust, is the one pointed at the back of every exchange owner's head, including yours. There's a second threat also, and this is quieter and even more brutal because this one doesn't need a rumor. It just needs a mistake. Your whole empire would fall like a waterfall. On February 21st, 2025, a Dubai-based exchange called Bybit did something completely routine. It moved a batch of Ethereum from one of its own wallets to another. Somewhere in that transfer, hackers were waiting. They had compromised the software Bybit relied on, and when the transfer went through, the money didn't land where it was supposed to. It landed in accounts controlled by the attackers. In a matter of hours, roughly $1.5 billion was gone. It was the largest crypto theft that has ever happened. The FBI tied it to a North Korean state hacking group. Within 48 hours, well over $100 million of it had already been laundered through thousands of addresses, and much of the rest was converted and scattered beyond reach. This wasn't a masked man with a note at a counter. This was a government-backed crew treating an exchange as an ATM for a sanctioned regime. Understand what that means for you as an owner. In a normal robbery, the money is insured and the thief gets maybe a few $1,000s. In your business, the vault is a line of code. The thief might be a nation state, and the amount they can take in one clean move is measured in billions. Bybit survived because it was big enough to absorb the hit and keep customers calm. A smaller exchange doesn't survive that morning. It just vanishes, and its founder spends the next decade explaining where everyone's money went. So let's actually do the thing you came here for and run the numbers, because the machine is still, on paper, a beautiful one. Say you go from the serious route. You spend the better part of a year and a few $1 million getting licensed in enough places to matter. You put real money into security, into compliance staff, into the boring infrastructure that keeps you off the front page. You launch. In a good year when crypto is hot, its volume is high, and everyone's day trading their savings, that tiny fee on every trade adds up fast, the same way it added up to $12 billion for the biggest player. A mid-sized exchange can throw off profits that would embarrass most normal businesses because your costs barely move while your revenue rides the volume. You are genuinely the house. Now run the bad year. The market goes cold and trading dries up, so your fee income falls off a cliff while your fixed costs, the licenses, the auditors, security team you cannot fire and keep eating. Then one of two things happens. Either a regulator decides your controls weren't good enough and hands you a fine with a comma in it you didn't expect, or a group of strangers finds one seam in your code and empties a wallet before your engineers finish their coffee. And if either of those shakes customer confidence even slightly, you get the third and final event. Everyone tries to withdraw at once. You discover in real time whether the money was ever really there. That's the whole business in one breath. The most reliable money printing machine in modern finance, bolted directly on top of the most fragile thing there is, the belief held by millions of strangers that their money is still where you told them it was. CZ understood that better than anyone. He built the toll booth, he weaponized the trust, he took the $4 billion punch, and he walked out the other side richer than almost anyone on this planet. So if you still want to own a crypto exchange, here's the only rule that matters. You will never lose money on a single trade. The house never does. You'll only lose everything all at once. And one morning, the crowd stops believing the vault is full. And in this business, the vault doesn't have walls. It has a roomer holding the door shut.